Greetings, welcome to Facts About Everything. I'm your host, James Egan. Today on Bond Month, we'll be looking at the 2002 film Die Another Day. Oh, I've been waiting for this. At one point, Bond looks at a book called Birds of the West Indies. This book was written by an ornithologist called James Bond. This is the book that Ian Fleming saw that inspired him to name the character in the spy series James Bond. The tagline was, "Events don't get any bigger than Die Another Day." Madonna sings the theme song, if you call that singing. She cameos in the fencing scene. Elton John said that this film has the worst Bond theme song ever.
Madonna. Since when has lip syncing been live?
See? It's not just me. Thanks, Elton. It's not your real name, but cheers anyway. The film references every single James Bond film at some point at least once, and now we're going to look at every single one of those references. Jinx exiting the ocean is a homage to Honey Rider scene in Dr. No. The blading shoe in Q's laboratory is a reference to Rosa Kleb's weapon of choice in From Russia with Love. The laser sequence is an obvious reference to Goldfinger. The jetpack in Q's workshop is a reference to Thunderball. The scene of Icarus unfolding in space is similar to the satellite opening up in You Only Live Twice. Miranda Frost confronts Bond by saying,
"Sex for dinner, death for breakfast. Well, it's not going to work with me."
Death for Breakfast is the title of Chapter 11 in the novel On Her Majesty's Secret Service. When fencing with Bond, Graves says,
"Then diamonds are for everyone."
as a nod to Diamonds Are Forever. The scene involving Icarus destroying landmines is very similar to a destruction of Kananga's poppy fields in Live and Let Die. The rotating mirrors in the Cuban hospital are reminiscent of Scaramanga's lair in The Man with a Golden Gun. Moonraker and this film both have a sword fight and a character called Chang. Also, both movies are really bad. The scene where Bond hangs onto the ice cliff resembles the ending for Your Eyes Only. Gustav Graves debuts by landing in an arena with a Union Jack parachute. This is an obvious reference to Bond's Union Jack parachute from The Spy Who Loved Me. The crocodile submarine from Octopussy is visible in Q's laboratory. Bond's cover is blown when his picture is run through a facial recognition program. The same thing happens in A View to a Kill. The Aston Martin spiked tires were seen in The Living Daylights. Like License to Kill, Bond has his license revoked. Bond's laser watch was used before in GoldenEye. The Vanquish car can be remote controlled just like the BMW in Tomorrow Never Dies. The world is not enough and this film both have a geodesic dome. That's a sad thing about this movie. They actually did put a lot of effort into it, but guys, just because you reference every movie doesn't mean this is going to be good. Maybe spend a bit more time on special effects to avoid this travesty. That was actually in the movie. Like, on purpose. They put it in there intentionally. All the previous Bonds attended the premiere apart from Sean Connery, who was filming The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Wow, Connery didn't go to the premiere. Man, he dodged a bullet. He didn't. The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is just terrible. Just simply terrible. The Ice Palace took 6 months to build. When Q hands Bond his watch, he says,
This should be your 20th, I believe.
This is an obvious reference to the fact that this is the 20th official Bond film. There's a rumour that Sean Connery filmed a cameo scene where he plays Bond's father. The producers deny this claim. Brosnan was 211 pounds when he played Bond in this film, making him the heaviest person to play the character. As I've said in GoldenEye, he was the lightest in that, which means that he is the lightest and heaviest person to ever play Bond. For the sword fight, the filmmakers altered the frame rate so the actors looked like they were moving faster than they were. Cheating. According to Halle Berry, it was freezing when she shot her bikini scene. 20 companies paid $70 million to have their products appear in the film. I bet they regret that now. This is the first Bond film where the main villain is played by 2 different actors. It took 3 hours for Brosnan to put on his fake beard and hair for the imprisonment scene. Although a good portion of the film is set in Iceland, none of the actors visited the country during filming. During the simulation, Q points out that Bond isn't supposed to shoot the chief. Bond retorts with,
"She's only got a flesh wound."
This is a reference to the film Monty Python and the Holy Grail when John Cleese's character, the Black Knight, loses his arm and remarks,
"Just a flesh wound."
Jinx's real name is Jacinta Johnson. The studio strongly considered giving Jinx her own spin-off. Debris from a smoke grenade landed in Halle Berry's eye during filming. She needed a 30-minute operation to have it removed. This is the first film where Bond's bullet is visible during the gun barrel scene when he fires his gun. I remember when that happened in the cinema and somebody shouted, "They ruined it!" Die Another Day has the lowest rating of any Bond film according to IMDb. Mainly because of this. Brosnan was paid a huge $16.5 million for this film. Rosamund Pike was only 21 when she was cast as Miranda Frost. She was cast 5 days before principal photography. Brosnan did not like the over-the-top special effects and gadgets in this film and insisted the follow-up should be dark and gritty. Ironically, after Brosnan left, the series was given a gritty reboot. The Queen of England attended the premiere. Rosamund Pike made her big screen debut on this film. The first scene she shot was opposite Judi Dench, which she found very intimidating. Pike Pike left the set for one day to go to her English literature graduation ceremony at Oxford University. There was a protest in South Korea for the film due to the scene where Americans give orders to the South Korean military.
Because the South Korean military take themselves very seriously.
Bond's invisible car is considered to be the worst gadget in the history of the series. Although the invisible car is called the Vanquish, Q calls it the Vanish. Why didn't they just call it that in the first place, if it's an invisible car? When Q walks around the Vanquish, the reflection of the car seems to elongate his legs. This is a reference to John Cleese's Silly Walk sketch in the TV show Monty Python's Flying Circus. Although many viewers complained about the absurdity of the invisible car, it is based on real technology that the US Air Force uses called daylight stealth aircraft, but the technology is nowhere near as advanced as is depicted in the film. Halle Berry is the first Oscar-winning actress to play a Bond girl. Toby Stephens plays the villain Gustav Grays. He has played James Bond 3 times in BBC radio adaptations. Gustav Grays is based on Richard Branson. The henchman is called Tang Ling Zhao. His name means the man who never smiles in Korean. The Icarus satellite was supposed to be called Solaris. The production changed the name when they learned that the film Solaris was being released the same year. The Bond girl from Tomorrow Never Dies, Wai Lin, was originally supposed to appear in this film. The hovercraft in the opening scene is a real hovercraft called the Griffin. Fencing club membership skyrocketed in the UK after the release of this film due to the sword fighting scene. 4 weeks before filming began, only 5 people had been cast. It's starting to make sense why this film didn't work out well. South Koreans were upset by a love-making scene that takes place near a Buddha statue. Bond's surfing on ice scene is often considered to be the worst stunt in the history of the series. Yep. Roger Moore passionately voiced his distaste for this movie. This is the first film where Bond sports a beard. Brosnan hurt his knee during the hovercraft scene, which forced production to shut down for 7 days. This is the first time that a Bond film had to be shut down due to an injury. Halle Berry left production for a few days to attend the Oscars, where she won an award for Best Actress for a performance in Monsters Ball. Bond uses the hovercraft to pass through a minefield. This has actually never happened in a battlefield, but the science show Mythbusters tested this concept and learned that it is theoretically possible. Although this is the last film to star Brosnan as James Bond, his last appearance as the character was in the 2003 video game James Bond 007 Everything or Nothing. Willem Dafoe plays the game's villain.
Jaws is also in this game, because when in doubt, put in Jaws.
The producers blamed themselves for the negative reception from the film. Catherine Zeta-Jones was considered for a role. Miranda Frost was supposed to be called Gala Brand. This is the name of the female lead in the Moonraker novel. Rick Yoon plays Zhao. His diamond-encrusted makeup took 3 hours to apply.
The film has at least 20 puns. This is more than any other James Bond film.
Saved by the bell. Point taken. I have been known to keep my tip up. You know I've missed your sparkling personality.
How's that for a punchline?
Okay, that one was funny and completely deserved. Also, he looked at Zhao for about 5 seconds before saying that, as if he's thinking, oh, I need a pun, I need a pun, I need a pun. You don't need to say pun every time, Bond. Also, most of these puns don't even make sense.
I take it Mr. Bond's been explaining his Big Bang Theory.
Why are we talking about space? He's not an astrophysicist.
I think I got the thrust of it.
That's not even a phrase. You never say, oh, I got a thrust of it. That doesn't make any sense. What? Also, do Americans get that? Do you say bang when you mean fornication? What's with these jokes? Do you take pun steroids? Were you coached by Mr. Freeze?
Joe, it's a cold town. Cool party.
Potential names for the film were Cold Fusion, Black Sun, and Beyond the Ice. Brett Ratner was considered for the director's chair. He is best known for directing Rush Hour and X-Men The Last Stand, if you call that directing. Brosnan was actually really happy that Cleese's character's name was changed from R to Q. Due to his Irish accent, he has difficulty saying R in a convincing English accent. So do I. I say R, English say ah. It's hard for me to say it without it sounding like a question. Ah? During one scene, Halle Berry choked on a fig and Brosnan had to perform the Heimlich maneuver. The film cost $142 million. It made just under $432 million worldwide. In Russia, the film is called Die, but not today. In Poland, the film is called Death Comes Tomorrow. In Finland, the film is called Death Can Wait. And finally, after the film's release, Brosnan was approached by a man in Dublin who asked to shake his hand. When he agreed, the man said, "That's the closest my hand will ever get to Halle Berry's arse." Brosnan found this absolutely hilarious. Special thanks to these fine people for all their help. Be sure to subscribe to Facts About Everything. Follow me on Twitter for updates on upcoming videos. Check out my Facebook page to let me know what subjects you want me to talk about in the future. Thanks for watching. See you again.